Yo, Kawhi Leonard cannot be serious with this take. This is absolutely ridiculous.
I want some rest. Are we having fun yet?
I often hear from non-Spurs fans that we need to get over the Kawhi Leonard situation. We need to just move on and not worry about it anymore. But you know what? I want to. I genuinely want to. I do not care. I've been good for the past couple seasons. I've just been irritated with us being mediocre, but I just wanted us to pick a direction. And once Kawhi Leonard left, well, it was kind of downhill from there. Slowly but surely downhill. And now I'm perfectly fine. I like the players we have. I like Keldon. I like Devin Vassell. I like Joshua Primo. I think this is a really good foundation going forward for what we can get in the draft, this upcoming draft. And we have a really good franchise, so I have no doubt that we'll be back on top eventually. But this right here, I'm sorry, you can't simultaneously say that Spurs fans need to get over it and then Kawhi Leonard makes statements like this. Now, we're going to go over this, but really quick, if you guys want to support the channel, clanthemerchfan.com. Be patient with me. Got quite a few orders, still quite a few orders that I'm working on one by one, but surely they will all be done. So if you didn't get a tracking number yet, please just continue to be patient. Hey, this is a one-man show, okay? It's not necessarily like a big company or anything. So I'm doing it all by my lonesome. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about it. All right, so Kawhi Leonard, this is what he had to say about the rehab process. They basically asked him how things have been different now than it was in Toronto, but he put it upon himself to basically throw San Antonio in there too.
3 years ago, Toronto had a long layoff, several months, had a big debut, kind of like how tomorrow's going to be. What similarities and differences are there for now compared to back in 2019 or 2018?
I mean, similarities is just like I had missed a year pretty much, you know, and you know, same thing here, just you coming back and trying to get it restarted again and get refreshed and, like I said, get those game reps under your belt. And I mean, it's just a different situation, you know, from me getting traded to one team to another, and you know how that rehab process went for me. So it's been very different. You know,
How has it been different?
this time going through that, and you know, having a team behind my back, and you know, moving forward, you know, they want what's best for me. So I'm seeing the same faces. So that's like the differences pretty much.
All right. So if you missed what he said, because I know sometimes it's kind of hard to hear because Kawhi Leonard, it's just his tone. But basically what he said is the difference between now and when he was with San Antonio. And it seemed like he even threw Toronto in there too, which is kind of weird. I didn't know that he had an issue with Toronto. Also, did not realize that's better. That's better. Anyways, so yeah, so what he's saying is the difference between now and when he was with San Antonio and Toronto is that he actually has players that has his back. He has a team that has his back, and he has support. This is straight up revisionist history. And I thought about this quite a bit. Initially, this was my tweet when I first saw it. And I was like, dude, are you serious? Like, we're going to pretend like Uncle Dennis didn't speak for you when Pop wanted to meet one-on-one. You had support from Pop. He wanted to speak with you. We wanted you to stay. It wasn't necessarily like, oh, we just want to throw you under the bus. The San Antonio Spurs said, we'll give you all the time that you needed. Popovich was not upset about anything other than the fact that you just disappeared. That was the problem. He literally disappeared. So this is revisionist history. So initially I was pretty upset. I was pretty irritated, but I really thought about it. And what I kind of came to, and maybe this is me being a little more charitable than I should be, but I think Kawhi Leonard genuinely, I think he's genuinely convinced that that was the situation in San Antonio. As you guys know, Uncle Dennis had a really strong grip on Kawhi Leonard. This whole decision, it was all his family. Like, you could definitely tell from things that I've heard personally from people that was in the Spurs organization. I promise I'm not lying. And on top of it, with all the reports that came out, his family was really into this. Okay, so they had a stronghold on Kawhi Leonard. And don't get me wrong, he's still an adult. He can still make his own decisions. But at the same time, I look at a lot of these athletes, and I'm not saying this is Kawhi Leonard's situation, okay? I'm not saying that. I'm not trying to say that. But a lot of these athletes, I mean, they've been star players ever since, middle school, So a lot of times they never really had to 120% stand on their own. They always had people that kind of had their back going forward to keep them healthy, and the focus was mainly basketball. Okay, so I just keep that perspective, and when I look at Kawhi Leonard, some of the things that he's saying, I think he genuinely has convinced himself that San Antonio didn't have his back, which is absolutely insane. From the get, he wanted to go to LA. From the get, his family wanted to go to LA. Now I'm gonna leave this in the comments. So not the comments, I'm sorry, in the description. So I'll leave a link to this in the description, but this is the full story. It goes in depth with every single thing that happened, so we don't have this silly revisionist history. Okay, we know what happened. We talked about it plenty of times before, but if you want to go and read up on it, please do. All of it was BS. This whole like San Antonio didn't have his back, that was all made up. Now some people might point towards the Tony Parker interview, which I do point towards that, because I was like, Tony, what? Don't do that, Tony. But at the same time, at that point, it has already gotten really bad. He was already on his way out. Like, even you can go back and watch if you want. You can go back and watch all of the different press conferences and interviews that Spurs players had when Kawhi Leonard disappeared. No one really expected anything or suspected anything was going on. But at the same time, then when they asked like Manu Ginobili something, Manu initially was very supportive and like, hey, we just want him to get better, blah, 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 blah. And then as time goes on, the language starts to change. And the reason why the language started to change is because it wasn't just a matter of Kawhi Leonard going to get second opinions from doctors. It was literally shutting off from the team altogether. He wasn't coming for film rooms. He was barely there. He was off. he was off in a completely different state. He was not with San Antonio, and that was just, I'm sorry, no matter how you cut it, I don't care how much of a superstar you are, that's just being a bad teammate. And everyone started to suspect that something was going on, and maybe, just maybe, he wanted out of San Antonio. But it was never blatantly said because there was no real justification for wanting out at that point. As you know, like most players, when they want out of a situation, they usually have a really good reason to do so. But when it came to Kawhi Leonard, in order for the media to kind of, take it and he still looked like the decent or good guy, you can't necessarily just say, hey, he just randomly wants out. Because in San Antonio, keep in mind, he had just won a championship. He was at the top of MVP voting. Everything was going well for him. The team was played through him. He was the leader of the team. He was loved in San Antonio. So there was really no true, or at least one that we can sit back and say, oh, that's a good justification for you to want to leave. So what did they do? They slowly but surely threw the franchise under the bus, made us look like we were dysfunctional, made it look like we didn't support Kawhi, which is all BS, especially with the San Antonio Spurs, a team that continuously has players sit as much as possible. We get in trouble for it all the time. It got so bad that it became a trend in the NBA for players to sit, because San Antonio knew 82 games is way too many games on your body. So even San Antonio Spurs sat back and was like, to reserve Tim Duncan's career, we're gonna sit you quite a bit, right? And they did the same thing with Kawhi Leonard. They would send Kawhi Leonard and Tony Parker home, Manu Ginobili home. And yeah, it was a good way for the young guys to get some minutes while also reserving your star players for the playoffs. So the Spurs did this all the time. So I'm sorry, if any team cared about health, it would be San Antonio. They have a really good track record of that. I'm not sitting here trying to be a homer. If the franchise sucks, I will say my franchise sucks. Like, I'm a Cowboys fan. I will say in a heartbeat that my franchise sucks. But when it comes to the San Antonio Spurs, everything that I've seen, they typically do it the right way. Do they mess up sometimes? Sure. But this situation, I don't put I put no blame on the San Antonio Spurs franchise. I'll be honest with you. No blame whatsoever. They at least want you to be around the team, and they don't want you to just go ghost. And, I mean, if you want to say that the San Antonio Spurs should have just bent over backwards for Kawhi Leonard in that situation, it wouldn't have mattered. He wanted out. It was very apparent. I mean, to the point where you try to meet up with him, and his uncle talks the entire time. That's insane to me. So no. He wanted out, and it seems like he's not necessarily owning up to it, but at the same time, maybe he genuinely has convinced himself that this is how it went down, that no one had his back. All it was with the San Antonio Spurs, after a certain amount of time, because it was a long time he was gone, they just wanted some accountability. That's literally it. So anyways, that's all I have to say about this situation. I think this is ridiculous. I think it's pathetic. But at the same time, I have a little bit of sympathy towards Kawhi Leonard. So I'll give it to you guys later, man. You want to support the channel, as always, clanthemerchfan.com, or become a Patreon YouTube member, only $2 per month. But yeah, bye.